Wemby is having an insanely underrated season. I think because people expected Wemby to average a 50-point quadruple-double in his second season, we aren't fully appreciating what he's doing right now. And he really is having a good season. The guy is only 20 years old and already dominating the league in ways most players never even come close to. Let's break it down, because this is the kind of performance that doesn't come around often. He's currently putting up 23.8 points per game, which ranks 22nd in the entire NBA. That's already impressive, but then you look at the rest of his stats and it just gets better. He's grabbing 10.2 rebounds per game, ranking 14th overall, and blocking 3.3 shots per game, which leads the league. That's right, nobody is rejecting more shots than Wemby this season. His defensive presence is absolutely game-changing. Offensively, he's also showing incredible versatility. He's dishing out 3.8 assists per game, which is slightly down from last year, but hey, that's what happens when Chris Paul joins your team and handles a lot of the playmaking. And while his turnovers are a bit high at 3.5 per game, it's something he'll clean up as he continues to grow. His shooting splits are fantastic too. Wemby is knocking down 47.7% of his field goals, which is solid, and hitting 34.1% of his three-pointers. Sure, the three-point percentage could climb a bit, but for a guy his size, that's still really good. And don't even get me started on his free throws. He's hitting an elite 88.5% from the line. That's such a luxury for a big man. When you look at his true shooting percentage, it's sitting at an impressive 59.9% overall. But here's what really stands out. He's been on a tear in the last 10 games, where his true shooting percentage has jumped to a ridiculous 65.4%. That's up from 52% over his first 9 games. He's adjusting, learning, and flat out dominating. Now let's put this in some historical context, because Wemby isn't just good, he's making history. The only other sophomore in NBA history to average at least 20 points, 10 rebounds, 1 steal, and 3 blocks per game, David Robinson and Hakeem. That's it. And here's the kicker. Both Robinson and Hakeem were significantly older when they hit those marks. Robinson was 25 years old and playing 37.7 minutes per game. Olajuwon was 23 and playing 36.5 minutes per game. Wemby, he's only 20 years old and averaging just 32.3 minutes per game. That's unreal efficiency and impact for such a young player. Last night's game was another prime example of why this kid is so special. He put up 28 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 blocks, and 1 steal. Oh, and don't forget the clutch free throws he hit to seal the deal. His ability to step up in big moments is already elite, and he's barely scratching the surface of what he can become. And speaking of stepping up, Wemby leads all players under 21 years old in scoring this season. He's averaging 23.8 points per game, while the next closest player, Jared McCain, is way behind at 15.8. Castle, one of Wemby's teammates, is third at 12.1. Wemby is in a league of his own among the young gun. There's another crazy stat that sets him apart from literally everyone else in NBA history. Wemby is averaging 3.5 blocks per game and 2.1 three-pointers per game. No other player in league history has ever averaged at least 2 blocks and 2 threes per game. That's an absolutely unique combination of rim protection and perimeter shooting, and it shows just how versatile he is on both ends of the floor. It's honestly wild to think about how polished and dominant Wemby is already. His mix of size, skill, and basketball IQ is off the charts. He's doing things that most big men can only dream of, and he's doing it at an age when most players are just trying to find their footing in the league. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during this season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, Wemby. I know a lot of you who watch my videos like advanced stats, and Wemby's are pretty crazy. Let's start with his player efficiency rating, or PR, which is 24.4. That ranks 7th in the entire NBA. PR measures overall efficiency, and for a guy this young to be that high on the list, it's just incredible. And his impact on defense? Unreal. He's second in block percentage, trailing only Walker Kessler, who's been an elite rim protector in his own right. Wemby's presence in the paint is a nightmare for opponents. When it comes to rebounding, Wemby is also making waves. He ranks 10th in defensive rebound percentage, meaning he's grabbing a huge chunk of available boards when he's on the floor. Overall, he's 21st in total rebound percentage, which shows his ability to clean the glass on both ends of the court. His mix of size and timing is just impossible to ignore. Now, let's talk about his offensive workload. Wemby is 8th in usage percentage, which means the team relies on him a ton when he's on the court. And he's not just taking on a big role, he's thriving in it. His box plus minus is 9th in the league, showing how much he contributes to his team's success every time he steps on the floor. It's rare to see a player this young already making such a big impact in every facet of the game. And then there's VORP, value over replacement player. Wemby ranks 14th in the NBA in VORP, which essentially measures how much better he is than an average player. That's not just good, it's elite. When you factor in his limited minutes compared to some of the other top players, it makes what he's doing even more impressive. The best part about all of this, Wemby isn't just putting up great numbers, he's doing it efficiently and consistently. Every advanced stat paints a picture of a player who is already elite and still has room to grow. His ability to dominate on both ends of the floor, handle a huge offensive workload, and still impact the game in so many ways is just special. Watching him develop into one of the league's best has been an absolute thrill. And I think a lot of people who don't watch the Spurs, one problem they have is they say he shoots too much from outside. But Wemby's perimeter shooting has been a fascinating aspect of his game. It's wild to think that this guy, standing 7 feet and 4 inches tall, is scoring almost as many points from beyond the arc as he does from the paint. He's not your traditional center, and honestly, that's what makes him so special. Watching him shoot threes with that smooth, high release is just exciting. When those shots are falling, everything feels right, but when they're not, the criticism comes pouring in, with people saying he should focus more on playing like a real big man. That argument, though, feels pretty off base. It's not like Wemby has decided to avoid the paint. There are just some real challenges for him inside. His height, while an obvious advantage, can also make things tricky. When he's trying to back down defenders, his high center of gravity makes it tough to hold his ground. And if he has to put the ball on the floor, that high dribble is like a neon sign for help defenders who can swipe at it or force a turnover. It's why you don't see him posting up every other possession. Even when he spins baseline to create something, he's not always in the clear. Smaller, stronger defenders can nudge him off balance, and then he's scrambling to find a teammate before running out of room. Sometimes he does, and it looks brilliant, but other times it's a live ball turnover that puts the other team in transition. For a guy who's still learning the ropes of NBA physicality, those are tough situations to master. Now, you'd think someone with Wemby's size and athleticism would be a lob threat every time down the court, right? Especially with someone like Chris Paul orchestrating the offense. But it's not that simple. Paul's not the same rim attacking force he used to be, so defenses are more than willing to sag off Wemby and force Paul into a mid-range jumper. Plus, the spacing for San Antonio isn't always great. Some of the Spurs role players don't draw enough defensive attention, so even when the pick and roll looks like it's setting Wemby up, there's often help waiting at the rim. That doesn't mean he's stuck hanging around the three-point line, though. The Spurs coaching staff deserves some real credit here. They've been creative with how they use him, running plays that get him into mismatches where he can attack quickly and decisively. But even that comes with its challenges. Opponents often switch their center onto him mid-play, neutralizing the mismatch and forcing the Spurs to reset. And when Jeremy Sochan is on the court with him, it can be even harder to find space, as defenses can sag off Sochan and clog things up even more. So what's the solution? Should Wemby just let it fly from deep every time? Not exactly, but the three-point shot is definitely a crucial weapon for him right now. It keeps him involved offensively, spreads the floor for his teammates, and keeps him from forcing plays that aren't there. And when the defense does collapse on him inside, he's getting better at finding the open man or getting a shot off before help can arrive. The impact he has just by being on the court is huge. The Spurs are scoring more at the rim when he's out there. And whether he's finishing plays himself, creating for others, or just drawing so much attention that his teammates get easy looks, he's making things happen. There's no question that Wemby has the tools to evolve into a true matchup nightmare. As he gets stronger and more comfortable against NBA defenses, he'll figure out how to dominate inside while still stretching the floor with his shooting. It's already starting to happen. You can see him adjusting game by game, learning when to attack, when to pass, and how to make the most of his unique skill set. For now, though, his perimeter game is doing exactly what it needs to. He's staying aggressive, helping the team's spacing, and playing to his strengths while he works on the rest. It's exciting to think about how much better he'll get as he refines his game. Watching him grow into the unstoppable force he's destined to be is going to be a blast. And on the other side, I want to talk about his defense. Wemby's defensive game is straight up insane right now. He's not just good, he's dominant, winning the first ever Defensive Player of the Month award for the Western Conference in October, and November proves that. And this isn't just some random achievement. It's a brand new award introduced by the NBA, and Wemby grabbed it with authority. Let's start with his numbers, because they're jaw-dropping. Wemby led the league with 3.6 blocks per game. That's not just solid, that's game-changing. And it doesn't stop there. He also averaged 1.3 steals per game, contesting over 10 shots per game and deflecting 3.3 balls. Those stats scream disruption. You've got to love how he just dominates the paint, making opponents second-guess every move they make. Now, if you're into advanced metrics, this is where Wemby shines even brighter. His individual defensive rating sits at 104. That's elite. It's not just about the blocks or steals, it's the complete package. He's locking down the paint, stepping out to contest jumpers, and keeping his team's defense rock solid. And let's not forget, this guy is only in his second year. The way he reads the game on defense is ridiculous for someone this early in their career. What's wild is how many plays Wemby impacts that don't even show up on the stat sheet. He's the ultimate rim deterrent. Players see him standing there and they just decide, nope, not today. Think about how many more blocks he'd have if opponents actually tried to challenge him regularly. He changes the entire mindset of the offense just by being on the court. Wemby's not just a shot blocker, he's a disruptor. Watch him defend pick and roll. His combination of size and mobility makes it nearly impossible for ball handlers to find any space. He can switch onto smaller guards, close out on shooters, and still recover in time to protect the rim. It's unreal. And his deflections, those 3.3 per games, aren't just numbers. They're momentum-shifting plays that lead to fast breaks and easy points for his team. What's even more impressive is how he's learned from last season. After finishing second in the Defensive Player of the Year race, Wemby clearly took that as motivation. He's sharper, quicker, and more focused this season. He's not just trying to win awards, he's locking in to become the best defender in the league. And honestly, at this pace, it's hard to argue against him being the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. The Spurs' defensive scheme really maximizes what Wemby can do. They know he's a cheat code defensively, and they're using him perfectly. He's contesting everything near the rim, forcing opponents into tough shots, and creating chaos with his length. Even when he's not directly involved in the play, his presence alone changes how offenses operate. They're constantly aware of where he is, and that kind of impact is rare. Real quick though, I do need to say this. I gotta talk about something that's been a game changer for me lately: skincare. Over the past couple of years, taking care of myself has become super important, and that's why I'm hyped to have Tej Hanley sponsoring today's video. I'll be honest, Tej has seriously helped me out these past few months. They've made skincare so easy. I never thought it could be this simple. Their Level 1 system gives you all the essentials: a daily face wash, exfoliating scrub, AM moisturizer with SPF 20, and PM moisturizer. Plus, they include this super helpful instruction card that tells you exactly when, how much, and in what order to use each product. I keep it right by my sink, and it makes everything so much easier. Honestly, I wish I'd started sooner, but better late than never, right? And since Tej Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they've got an awesome deal for you. Just click the first link in the description to get 40% off your first box and a free gift. So don't wait, hit that link. Start your skincare journey today. Thanks again to Tej Hanley. I wouldn't promote a product I don't fully believe in. Alright, back to the video. What really stands out to me is his timing. Blocking shots is about more than just being tall. You need precision, and Wemby has it. He waits for the perfect moment, rarely getting caught on pump fakes. That kind of patience is usually something you see in veterans, not second-year players. And his ability to stay disciplined while still being aggressive, that's a scary combination for opponents. Another thing I love about Wemby's defense is how well he works with his teammates. It's not just a one-man show. He rotates at the right time, communicates on the floor, and knows exactly when to help and when to stay home. That kind of defensive IQ is a coach's dream. He's not just a standout player, he elevates the entire team's defense. And let's talk about those deflections again. 3.3 deflections per game might not sound like much at first, but think about what that does over the course of a game. Every deflection disrupts the offense, creates turnovers, and leads to transition opportunities. Wemby is basically a one-man fast break starter on defense. It's incredible to watch. What's crazy is that Wemby is still learning. He's only scratching the surface of what he can do defensively. As he gets stronger and more experienced, his ability to guard bigger, more physical players will improve. And with the way he's already dominating, that's a terrifying thought for the rest of the league. Winning Defensive Player of the Month in just the second month of the season is huge. It sets the tone for the rest of the year. Wemby isn't just a promising young player, he's already one of the best defenders in the NBA. And the fact that the NBA chose him as the first recipient of this new award says a lot about how special his game is. Every time he steps on the court, Wemby is proving that he's more than just hype. His defensive impact is undeniable, and he's only going to get better. Watching him dominate like this is an absolute thrill. There's just something about the way he controls the game on that end of the floor that's so fun to watch. It's not just about stats, it's about the energy and intensity he brings to every possession. And I want to talk about how bad the Spurs have been on defense when he was out. Let's just say it was a tough stretch for them. When Wemby wasn't on the court, the defensive numbers completely plummeted. During the games he missed, the team posted a defensive rating of 118. Yikes. That's the kind of number that has coaches losing sleep. Even when Wemby played, but rested on the bench, they only managed to stay afloat defensively if Zach Collins or Charles Bassey was out there. Now, let's talk about Collins for a second. The guy held it down pretty well in Wemby's absence. With Collins in the lineup alongside the starters, they had a defensive rating of 105.5, which was actually slightly better than the rating with Wemby himself, 107.1. Pretty impressive, right? But here's the catch. That specific lineup was the most used non-Wemby setup, so it had some chemistry going for it. When Collins and Wemby were both unavailable, Charles Bassey stepped up and kept the defensive ship from completely sinking. With him in the mix, the team's defensive rating was 109.8. Not bad at all, when you consider that the Dallas Mavericks defense, ranked 8th in the league, had a rating of 110.3. That's thanks to Bassey's ability to block shots like a pro and the solid perimeter coverage from Castle. Now, here's where things got dicey. The Spurs defense struggled when they couldn't rely on the big three of Wemby, Collins, or Bassey. The backups just didn't have the same defensive presence. Lineups with Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell at the top were a noticeable weak point, especially when Chris Paul wasn't out there to direct traffic. And even when Paul was in, his defensive impact mostly came from his IQ and experience because, let's face it, he's not as quick as he used to be. One particularly rough lineup featured Castle, Johnson, Barnes, and Collins. That group allowed opponents to hit 41% of their three-pointers, a glaring weakness. Another rotation gave up a jaw-dropping 80% at the rim. Without Wemby's length to intimidate and recover, opponents attacked the paint without hesitation. And then there were the games against the Chicago Bulls and Sacramento Kings. Those matchups, total defensive meltdowns. Against the Bulls, they couldn't stop anything from behind the arc, giving up 139 points. The Kings followed that up by carving up the Spurs with dribble penetration and bombing threes, resulting in 140 points. It was a back-to-back nightmare that highlighted just how much the team missed Wemby's presence. But it wasn't just about missing Wemby. The Spurs system depends heavily on having at least one elite defender on the floor at all times. And when both Wemby and Collins were unavailable, or even slightly off their game, the whole structure collapsed. Collins himself had taken a hard fall and was dealing with lingering soreness, which didn't help matters. Wemby, meanwhile, had been out with a sore back and even took a tough fall against the New Orleans Pelicans. Luckily, he returned for that game and helped the Spurs secure a win, but he admitted that the back issue was something new for him and had been limiting his play in subtle ways. Still, it was clear the team needed him back at full strength and fast. To their credit, the Spurs did some things right even without Wemby. They managed to defend the corners well, allowing just 27% of shots from those high-efficiency zones. That's a big deal because corner threes are some of the easiest and most dangerous shots in the game. However, that discipline didn't carry over to other parts of the court. The challenge for the Spurs was that their younger players weren't quite ready to step into bigger defensive roles. Developing that kind of consistency takes time, and without Wemby on the floor, the defensive shortcomings of the less experienced players became glaringly obvious. All in all, the Spurs' struggles during Wemby's absence were a reminder of just how much he means to their defense. His ability to cover ground, block shots, and completely alter opponents' game plans is irreplaceable. And while guys like Collins and Bassey did their best, they just couldn't replicate Wemby's impact. The team will need to stay sharp and healthy to avoid more defensive collapses like those brutal games against the Bulls and Kings. But it's fine, because Wemby is back now, and him and the Spurs have been on fire the last 10 games. Wemby has been an absolute monster. He's averaging nearly 30 points per game, 29.3 to be exact. And he's not just scoring either. He's pulling down over 10 boards a game and dishing out more than 5 assists. Those stats scream dominance. His efficiency has been off the charts too. Wemby shooting 51% from the field, knocking down 38% of his threes, and hitting 86% of his free throws. Combine all that, and you're looking at an insane 64% true shooting. That's elite territory. It's not just good for a rookie, it's good for anyone in the league. The Spurs have been riding his wave of greatness to a 7-3 record in their last 10 games. That's not just improvement, it's a transformation. They're 12th in points per game over that span, which is solid, but where they've really been shining is in getting to the line. They're first in both free throws made and free throws attempted. That aggressive play is paying off big time. Their work on the glass has been stellar too. They're 4th in offensive rebounds, creating extra possessions and giving themselves second chances. And the ball movement, chef's kiss. They're 7th in assists per game, which shows how well they're sharing the rock. That kind of teamwork has been a huge factor in their recent success. Defensively, they've stepped it up to another level. They're 3rd in blocks per game, thanks in large part to Wemby's presence in the paint. He's altering shots left and right, but it's not just him. The whole team has been locking in and contesting everything. It's been so fun watching them play lately. You can see the confidence growing with every game. Wemby's putting up superstar numbers, and the rest of the team is stepping up around him. They found a groove, and it's making them a serious problem for opponents. I want to talk about this crazy stat though. Wemby's outside shooting has become a major key to the Spurs' success. The numbers are clear. They're 5-1 when he takes 10 or more threes in a game, and they're an impressive 8-2 when he connects on at least 30% of his attempts from deep. That's huge. It shows just how critical the three-point shot has become, not just for guards or wings, but for big men like Wemby too. The NBA's style of play has completely shifted over the past 10 years. If a team can't knock down a ton of threes, they're going to struggle to keep up. And it's not enough to rely on role players to stretch the floor. Your stars have to lead the charge. Luckily for the Spurs, Wemby has embraced this role and hasn't shied away from taking those deep shots. He knows how the game works today, and he's all in on being a modern big who can dominate inside and out. His shot selection might raise a few eyebrows, but that's just noise. Wemby's confidence in his ability to shoot threes is backed by solid numbers and a clear vision of how he fits into today's NBA. Remember Dirk Nowitzki's early years? Nobody expected Dirk to become one of the greatest shooting big men of all time, but he stuck with it, put in the work, and made the jumper his signature weapon. Dirk shot just 20% from 3 as a rookie. Wemby, on the other hand, started his career at 32.5% from deep. That's already a stronger foundation than Dirk had. The comparisons don't stop there. Just like Dirk, Wemby is proving that the old school way of thinking, where bigs are supposed to camp out in the paint, is outdated. He's redefining what a big man can be, blending traditional post skills with perimeter finesse. The idea that big men shouldn't be launching threes, that's as outdated as saying live by the 3, die by the 3. Look at the modern game. Teams like Golden State and Boston have shown that you can absolutely win championships by leaning into the three-point shot. It's not a gamble, it's a weapon, and Wemby is wielding that weapon masterfully. What makes his approach so exciting is that it's not just about volume. He's adding layers to his game by taking these shots. He's not afraid to stretch defenses, forcing them to guard him everywhere on the court. That opens up space for his teammates and creates opportunities for the entire offense. It's strategic, and it's working. It's also worth pointing out just how bold Wemby has been in embracing this style so early in his career. He's unapologetic about taking those shots, and that kind of confidence is exactly what you want to see in a young star. He's not waiting for permission to play his way. He knows what works, and he's going for it. You love to see it. The Spurs coaching staff deserves credit too. They're not holding him back or trying to box him into a traditional role. Instead, they're encouraging him to explore the full range of his skill. That's how you unlock greatness in a player like Wemby. Letting him be himself, whether that's dominating in the paint, hitting fadeaways, or draining threes, is what's going to make him a nightmare for opposing teams for years to come. This mindset is what's keeping the Spurs competitive in a league that's faster, smarter, and more skilled than ever. They've recognized the importance of embracing the modern game, and Wemby is the perfect player to lead them into this new era. He's showing everyone that bigs can dominate from anywhere on the court, whether it's at the rim, the mid-range, or beyond the arc. Wemby is proving that versatility is the new standard for success. Just imagine where he'll be in a few years with even more experience and refinement. The foundation he's building right now is incredible, and it's only going to get better from here. I want to talk about some of his other advanced stats too though, because some are crazy. He's averaging 23.8 points per game, which is higher than 95% of the league. That's elite scoring for anyone, let alone a young big man still adjusting to the NBA. But his efficiency, that's where things really get exciting. His effective field goal percentage, or EFG percentage, sits at 56.1%. This stat measures a player's shooting ability while factoring in the extra value of three-pointers. Wemby's shooting is not just volume, it's smart and effective. He's connecting on shots with a level of precision that places him above 64% of NBA players. Then there's his points per field goal attempt, which comes out to 1.1. That means every time he shoots, the Spurs can almost count on him adding at least 1 point to the board. And his versatility is clear when you break it down. He's making 5.6 two-pointers per game, 3.1 three-pointers, and attempting 18.2 shots overall. That balance between inside and outside scoring is rare for a player his size. Now let's talk true shooting percentage, or TS percent. This stat combines field goals, three-pointers, and free throws to show how efficiently a player scores overall. Wemby's TS percent is 59.7%, putting him ahead of 68% of the league. That's almost 60% efficiency on every scoring attempt. His points per scoring attempt come in at 1.2, which is phenomenal for someone shouldering as much offensive responsibility as he does. And don't overlook his trips to the free throw line. He's averaging 3.9 attempts per game, adding another layer to his scoring toolkit. Wemby doesn't just rely on one aspect of his game, he's getting buckets from everywhere, whether it's in the paint, beyond the arc, or at the charity stripe. What's clear from all these numbers is that Wemby's scoring isn't just about piling on points. It's about doing it in a way that maximizes every possession. His efficiency is what makes him such a dangerous weapon on the floor, and it's only going to get better as he continues to refine his game. This guy is a scoring machine. And then we can look at his teamwork stats. Wemby's advanced teamwork stats prove just how much of a game changer he is. His mixed teamwork ranking places him above 81% of NBA players, which says a lot about how he impacts the Spurs. This guy isn't just putting up points. He's creating a winning environment every time he steps on the floor. Let's dive into his offensive and defensive ratings. His offensive rating, or ORTG, is 113.4. This measures how many points the team scores per 100 possessions while he's on the court. It's clear the Spurs offense runs smoother, with Wemby leading the charge. On the other side, his defensive rating, or DRTG, is 110.2. That's how many points the team allows per 100 possessions. The result? A net rating of plus 3.2, meaning the Spurs outscore opponents by over 3 points per 100 possessions when he's in the game. That's the kind of efficiency that wins games. Now here's where it gets even better. Wemby's on-off numbers are incredible. The team scores 4.8 more points per 100 possessions when he's playing compared to when he's not. That's a massive swing, showing just how much he elevates the entire team. Whether it's his scoring, passing, or even just his presence, he's always making a positive difference. And speaking of impact, half of his games this season have ended with him posting a positive plus-minus. That means in 50% of his games, the Spurs outscored their opponents while Wemby was on the floor. That's consistency right there. It's not easy to influence a game this much night after night, but Wemby makes it look effortless. What's clear is that his presence is more than just stats. It's about creating opportunities for everyone around him. He's the kind of player who makes teammates better and keeps the team competitive, no matter who they're facing. Watching him in action is like seeing a masterclass in team-first basketball. And then there's his ball handling stats. Wemby's advanced ball handling stats are seriously impressive. He ranks above 76% of players in 3 steps, a metric that estimates ball handling ability. That's no small feat for a guy his size. Handling the ball with such finesse while standing 7 feet 4 inches tall is just wild. Let's talk about his assists. He's averaging 3.8 assists per game, which translates to an assist rate of 20.82%. That means over 20% of his teammates' field goals are directly set up by Wemby while he's on the court. That's the kind of unselfish play that keeps the offense humming. He's not just looking to score, he's setting up others for success. On average, his assists generate 9.3 points per game, showing how much he contributes to their scoring beyond his own buckets. Now, turnovers are always a part of the ball handling equation, but here's where Wemby shines. His turnover percentage is just 13%, which is better than 75% of the league. This measures how often he turns the ball over compared to his total actions that conclude a play, like scoring attempts or turnovers. With 3.6 turnovers per game, he's managing to maintain control despite taking 20 scoring attempts per game. That's a solid balance for someone so involved in the action. What really stands out is how Wemby's ball handling fits into the bigger picture. His ability to create plays, keep possession, and limit mistakes gives the Spurs a reliable option in almost any situation. Watching him handle the ball is like watching a guard trapped in a big man's body. It's just so fluid and controlled. His unique combination of size and skill is something you can't help but get excited about. And then there's his rebounding stats. Wemby is an absolute beast when it comes to rebound. He's averaging 10.2 rebounds per game, putting him in the top 7% of all NBA players. That's a monster stat for any player, especially considering his position. He's grabbing 8.2 defensive rebounds and 2.1 offensive rebounds per game. When you break it down even further, Wemby's offensive rebound percentage is 6.47%, meaning he grabs a huge chunk of the available offensive boards when he's on the floor. And let's not forget about his defensive rebound. He's absolutely crushing it there too. His defensive rebound percentage is 23.59%, putting him in the top 6% of the league. That's elite stuff. Wemby's ability to snag both offensive and defensive boards makes him a huge presence in the paint. He's not just grabbing rebounds for the sake of it, he's securing possessions for his team, giving them extra chances to score. His size and timing allow him to control the boards on both ends of the court, helping his team maintain possession and minimize second chance opportunities for the opposition. It's not easy to be so dominant on the glass, but Wemby's doing it night after night. Whether it's grabbing a defensive board to start a fast break or crashing the offensive glass to create another scoring opportunity, he's always in the right place at the right time. That kind of presence can change the momentum of a game in an instant. But lastly, I can't not mention his defense stats. Wemby is a defensive nightmare for opponents. Let's break it down. He's averaging 1.2 steals per game, and when you add in his 3.3 blocks, it's clear he's a huge presence on both ends of the court. His ability to affect shots is just insane. Whether it's swatting a layup attempt or closing out on a shooter, Wemby makes sure his presence is felt. He's also grabbing a solid 8.2 defensive rebounds per game, showing just how well he reads the game and anticipates where the ball will land. He's not just swatting shots and getting steals. He's locking down the glass and ensuring the other team doesn't get any second chances. Wemby's mixed team defense ranks at a ridiculous 95%, meaning his defensive impact goes beyond individual stats. He's disrupting the flow of the opposing offense and making life difficult for anyone who tries to score on him. His presence forces opponents into tougher shots and mistakes, and he's constantly helping his team stay one step ahead. That's what makes him so special. He doesn't just defend, he completely alters the game. Then, when you look at his team defensive efficiency, it's sitting at 110.2, showing just how much his defense elevates his entire team. He's not just covering his own man, he's helping everyone around him, making sure no one gets easy buckets. When you add it all up, Wemby is a total defensive force, and there's no question he's one of the toughest players to score on in the league. Overall though, Wemby is having an absolutely underrated season. It's been such a thrill to watch this guy dominate on both ends of the floor. From his jaw-dropping blocks to his incredible rebounding, he's been a game changer. But what makes it even more exciting is how he's doing it all while still flying under the radar. He's impacting the game in ways that don't always show up on the highlight reels, but trust me, the numbers don't lie. Every night, he's out there making huge plays, and it's honestly so much fun to watch him evolve into the superstar he's destined to be. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.